Hi guys, welcome back. I'm Xana from Zanaya, Practice for Animal Welfare. Today we're going to discuss hormones in dogs and also discuss castration and sterilization, spay and neuter as are the more common terms. We'll discuss everything in this video, and I hopefully you'll get a lot of info from this. If you need more assistance, you can always reach me. Like the video, subscribe to my channel, and we're gonna get started right now. What will we discuss in this video? What hormones do in dogs, castration and sterilization, what happens when we do that, behavior after castration or sterilization, is it always the best choice, and are there alternatives? We'll discuss everything in this video. We'll get started right now. What do hormones do in dogs? Testosterone in males will provide a sufficient muscle mass, will also form like their confidence and will be like, okay, I'm male. So testosterone will do that for males. They will make them more confident, and they will also help them be more social to other dogs. This is very contradictory because a lot of people say, well, a dominant male should have like a lot of testosterone. Well, the opposite is true. Usually, when we see them being a little dominant and aggressive, reactive, they're not high in testosterone. They're even lower in testosterone. Males that are high in testosterone usually have the best quality of being social and being there for their group. When we see a group of dogs, it's not helpful to be aggressive toward one another. So the male with sufficient testosterone, who is high in testosterone even, will be able to stop fights, will be able to preserve the group as a whole. And that is important. So that is more important than fighting each other. Fighting each other is not helpful in a group. The same in humans. It's not helpful to fight with each other if you have to work together in another day, whatever. So it's not helpful to fight each other. You have to find common ground. So that is what a male high in testosterone will do. So it's very, very important. Estrogen and progesterone in bitches, in females, is also a hormone that will regulate, of course, their heat cycles. That is important, of course. Will also affect their mood. We as females know what our hormones can do with our moods, but usually that means that we're not. Usually it means we're not good in balance in those hormones. So in balanced bitches, those hormones will provide a nice steady flow in their heat cycle, and you'll not even recognize their heat cycle. So that is important. Of course, it also provides the bitch with enough confidence. So very important to know that. Sex hormones are not all bad. We should get rid of that notion, because it seems that if we get rid of the sex hormones, we can get rid of reactive, aggressive, anxious behavior. That is just not true. The opposite is true. We'll discuss that later on in the video as well, but those hormones are not only sex hormones. They regulate hundreds of bodily processes. So it's very important that we know what those hormones do exactly in the body. For example, like testosterone will provide you with muscle mass as a male. If you take that away, the muscle mass will decrease. So that's not very helpful in a lot of situations. Also for bone growth, it's not very helpful. Estrogen and progesterone in bitches will also provide like feeling confident and will regulate their weight. So if we take that away, you can imagine what happens. So just to make sure, the difference between castration and sterilization: castration is the removal of the sexual organs, so the testicles or ovaries, and or the uterus. Sometimes in bitches, the ovaries and the uterus are removed. Sometimes they only remove the ovaries and leave their uterus in the body. So this is actually what we call the spay and neuter. It's desexing. Yeah, so they don't have their sexual organs anymore, or what provides them being male or female. Sterilization is quite different because it means that we're going to tie the fallopian tubes in females or do a vasectomy in males. So tie off the positive valence. We're making them infertile, which in the long run might be a better solution. We'll come to that in a minute. We can state that all castrated animals are sterilized, so they are infertile, but not all sterilized animals are castrated. All right, so we don't remove any of the sexual organs in sterilization. In castration, we do. Right, so the testicles for males are the main factories for testosterone. If we take them away, we take a lot of testosterone away. The ovaries in females provide the growth of the estrogen. So if you take that away, you can imagine estrogen drops. And so it's very important to know that difference. So you can imagine that after castration, and actually that is what basically all dogs go through right now, because it's not taught differently in universities at vet school. We can see that if we take away the testicles, if we take away the ovaries, that there is major changes in many bodily processes, because testosterone in males and in females has like more than 100 processes that it is involved in. Estrogen is the same, even more bodily processes, also in females and males. Of course, in females, estrogen will provide the female traits, and testosterone will provide in males the male traits. But we have to see that difference. So even me, I have testosterone in my body, right? I'm a female. Males have estrogen and have progesterone in their body. So it's very important to make that difference. Behavior-wise, if we castrate because of behavior, I would never recommend to do that, because if it's behavior like aggression or reactivity towards other dogs, towards people, other things, those things don't come from those hormones. It's not sexually related, right? You will only change a behavior that is sex related when you castrate, right? So what we can see after castration in males, if the male is one that goes wander in search for a hot female, if he goes out and breaks out like every day, each and every day, and he's actually a threat to himself in that way, because he's just focused on getting a bitch in heat. Okay, then castration might solve that, because he's no longer driven by his sex hormone, right? Or his desire to have sex, basically. That can be solved then. In bitches with pyometra, uterus infections, that can be solved by castrating, because then this bitch will not have the effects of the estrogen producing like the mucus in the uterus. So that's what you want to, that's what you see. But if we castrate for behavior like reactivity, aggression, anxiety, then we're never going to change that with castration. Never. We're only going to make it worse, to be frank, because we take away those hormones that provide security for the dog. If we take care of balancing those hormones, so balancing out the testosterone, balancing out estrogen and progesterone, then we can make a huge difference. We can make a bigger difference than that we're doing castrating those dogs. We will make a difference, but in the negative way. In a positive way, we can do a lot more with providing healthier nutrition, for example, supplements, whatever that we can do. Herbs. There's a lot of herbs that we can use also for us as humans to regulate our hormones, or to bring them into balance again, because unfortunately the world we live in has a lot of hormone disturbing substances in it, especially if we eat highly processed food, for example, or if we only live in like fleas. That's also not so good, and it will disrupt your hormonal balance. But for dogs, it's the same. So we have these herbs that are at our disposal that we can use, and that have been proven to balance out those hormones. So why not do that? There is an opportunity to castrate, for example, only after 5 years of age, which would mean that the dog up until 5 years of age had all his hormones, and will be fairly adapted to them. If you castrate, then you might be able to prevent like testicular cancer, ovary cancer, that kind of stuff, which might be important, right? That is because we see those cancers practically only, of course, there's always exceptions, practically only after 5 years of age, usually starting at 6. But being that they had 5 years of good hormones and good balanced, then you will not see a huge difference in behavior when you castrate. So that might be an option. If you castrate earlier, you might have, you might put your dog out of, your dogs are more prone to other cancers that are more difficult to treat, such as, for example, bone cancer. It happens a lot, and we see it in fairly young dogs. So that's a lot more difficult to treat. So, and it usually ends up in euthanasia. So that's not something we desire for our dogs, I hope. So that would be something to consider as well, because there's other types of cancer that are more prone in dogs that have been castrated or early on. So have some thoughts about that. So if you would sterilize, a bitch would still come into heat, but she's sterile, so she won't be able to have a litter, right? So she can't get pregnant, but she will still come into heat. If you don't like a bitch in heat or a bitch in season, then don't take a bitch, take a male. So simple. A bitch in heat can be a little bit messy, that is true. But if you don't desire that, then take a male. They don't go in heat. So that might be a better option for you if that is your motivation to castrate, for example. So when does castration do make sense? In case of medical problems, of course, recurring pyometra, for example, in bitches, or testicular cancer in dogs. Unfortunately, it does happen in younger dogs as well, but it's fairly rare. Or hormonal influences that harm their well-being. So, for example, that male that goes into search for a bitch in heat and doesn't mind any traffic or whatever, he just runs after the bitch in heat. That of course harms well-being, and then it might be better to castrate. Sterilization might be a lot better procedure to do, because you keep the hormones in the body, and the body needs those hormones. But it's not taught in veterinary school, or not in a lot of schools. At least it's not in Europe. I'm not sure about the rest of the world, though. There are alternatives like chemical castration. I don't like that because it's chemical. I'm all for all natural solutions, and the more natural that you can give them, so in solutions, the better. So don't try anything chemical. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't recommend it. There's a lot of research on them. I agree. But still, I'm not sure if the chemicals aren't as harmful as, well, aren't more harmful than they would let out. So I would always do my own research on that. If you have some questions about it, feel free to ask. If you want to know more about hormones, what bodily processes that they influence, because there are a lot, then I would friendly invite you to purchase my ebook. The link is in the description. You'll learn a lot more about those processes, what the hormones do, how you can detect hormonal imbalances, and how you can correct them with the correct herbs and natural helpful things, such as nutrition. If you want to know more, please, I invite you to check out the ebook, or you can always ask me some questions in the comments or via email. In the meantime, if you like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you will see a lot more interesting pet videos. Thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.